Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening to start off. Well, it could be a pretty volatile week. With Wednesday, we have the rate cut decision, and of course, I think J Powell speaks as well, as he usually does. So yeah, could be a bit of a volatile week, but let's see what we can expect, and I'll give you my thoughts. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But again, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc., well, guys, again, don't forget, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day as the market is open and trading in my private YouTube membership. All you have to do is click the first link in the description below, and you get access to this page to join if you so wish for just $3 a month. Includes all my Tesla updates, options flow, different time frame analysis, things like that, and also broader market updates as well, like SPY, Qs, VIX, things like that. $5 USD a month, of course, includes NVDA as well if you're interested in NVIDIA updates, or $7 gives you the whole package where you also get access to my tier 3 posts, which includes non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA stocks and individual charts that are worth mentioning that have a nice setup going for them. And of course, private access to my Discord. We have a tier 3 chat room, and every Sunday I do chart reviews with members. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down actually about, we'll say, almost 3.5%, closing at, we'll just say just shy of $440 per share. So yeah, starting things off, what is really happening with Tesla stock here, right? Is it over? Is it bearish? Oh my God, is it about to crash? Is the bull run over? Is this just a massive bull trap? There is potential, right? We'll go over both scenarios. There is potential. This is a very, very large bull trap, and it's about to go significantly lower. There is that obviously, potential, which again, we'll explain, but that's not my base case projection, which again, I'll also go over, which I've explained before, but I'll of course reiterate it. So simply put, we had this massive breakout of this trend line right here, and then we of course rallied into the green Fibonacci's, like I mentioned many times. When Teslas add major resistance in general, plus the green fibs, plus the 4-hour SMIs at the top, I mean, my goodness, you're pretty much asking for a rejection, even or either literally right here, pretty much right now, or closer than not. Clearly, it happened. So, not really too much of a surprise here if you've been following, the cookie crumbs, the trail crumbs, the breadcrumbs, whatever. But, the question, of course, is where does it go from here? And is this bearish, right? Is this a bearish, is it all over? No, I don't think it is. Actually, in fact, like I mentioned many times, my base case projection is the fact that, yeah, we do reject from there, which was that Fibonacci, which I am going to remove now because it's pretty much rejected. It's all we cared about. But I do think that a move potentially lower is still on its way. I actually do think that Tesla can head lower, not necessarily right away. I do think ideally, actually, it will have a small little bounce here and then make its way one more leg lower to about, again, give or take $430 per share. Worst case scenario, while still being very bullish, will be about $420 per share. So about 430 down to 420 would be my target to the downside, right? That also lines up with the Fibonacci's. If you take them from the lows down here and bring them up to this rejection point up here, you can see we have the 382 Fibonacci sitting at 430. We have the 0.5 Fibonacci sitting at 420. I do expect price to stop at one of those two levels. If it really goes down lower, if things really get spicy, we can go to the 618 Fibonacci, which is sitting at about $411 per share. I don't think that's going to happen, personally speaking. It could. It absolutely could. It'll just take a lot longer, and Tesla will, get a nice kind of longer, slower kind of drip feed. Overall, lower down to the sort of the bottom of this very large rising channel that we are in, which you can see here, right? This very, very large rising channel. I don't think that's going to happen, but there is a possibility of it, right? If I had to give them, percentage odds, if you will, I would give it about 50% chance it stops at 430, about 30% chance it goes to 420, and then the remainder is about 411, something like that, 50, 40, 20, maybe even more towards the upper end of the spectrum, maybe even like 50, 50, or no, 50, 40, 10. Yeah, 50, 40, 10. That's what it is. Math is hard, I guess, when you're on the spots. Yeah, so about 50% chance there, 40% chance here, and about 10% chance if we go as low as about the 620 Fibonacci. So that's kind of my current expectations. But the point is the fact that I expect this to be a bullish retracement, right? That is kind of how I see it. The EMAs are still bullish. The 4-hour SMI is going to cool off, but that's the way I look at it right now on the daily. Maybe a small little bounce from here, which I'll go over on the 1 hour soon. One more leg lower, bottom out around here, and then we head higher. That's my base case projection. If something changes, I will of course let you know, but that is my base case projection. Going over to the 1 hour time frame, right? This is kind of the same idea where, I do think Tesla is starting to lose a little momentum on the 1 hour time frame. I don't know what that was. It is starting to lose momentum on the 1 hour time frame, but it doesn't change what I'm personally seeing. I still view this as a very nice bullish move to the upside. Now we create essentially what will pretty much in hindsight eventually look like a bull flag, a bullish wedge, whatever. Maybe even if we're lucky, it'll be a bullish pennant that'll look something like this. That's even more bullish. But I expect about a bull wedge slash bull fly that'll look something along the lines of this. One of these two factors or patterns rather is what I kind of expect right now. But again, it'll look something like this. Remember, whenever you're creating a bull wedge or a bull pattern, right, when it looks something like this, you're zigzagging in between it and getting tighter and tighter, and then you break out eventually. This is roughly what I'm expecting on Tesla stock over the next few days, really, maybe up to a week. Again, I don't know how long it's going to take. Depends on how quick it happens. Could be slow, could be quick. I don't know. But that's my current expectation on the stock and what I think it's going to develop, because ultimately I do want to see at least a retest of about $430-ish per share, because you can see this was a massive area of rejection. Now we come back, test that, almost said the S word, test that zone as fresh liquidity, essentially bullish liquidity now, essentially, turning old resistance into new support, right? And then bounce off of that. That is my ideal scenario. Like I said, we could go down to 420, which would make things a little bit more, still great, but slightly more iffy, because then, there is a risk that we have, if we go down to 420, then we start turning this 430 area into resistance, and that will start printing a bearish head and shoulders. So it kind of just, adds a little more risk to the overall situation, but still with overall bullish implications, in my opinion. Again, the ideal scenario is something that looks like this, and then we head higher. That's best case scenario, I guess, to make things as simple as possible, while the 4-hour SMI slowly begins its cool off, not necessarily all the way down to the green zone, but at the very least somewhere near the halfway point, if not maybe the slightly lower than that kind of zone. Give it some cool off room, and then let it get ready for kind of give room for price to head higher with that 4-hour SMI. That makes sense on Tesla stock. So that's kind of the way I'll be looking at it moving forward overall. And then the very, very short term, going into as early as maybe even tomorrow. This is what I just told my members about. Pretty much right before the market closed. You can see here about, it says 9 minutes ago now. It was a little bit longer because I didn't refresh the page, but you can see this is right as it was setting up. You can see this kind of bullish head and shoulders pattern, which we're already starting to play out, actually. We have a nice little bullish head and shoulders on the 15-minute time frame, slowly playing out over here. So essentially, the way I look at it, as long as Tesla holds about 436.5, this does look like it has a small little bullish head and shoulders pattern, nice little potential breakout already setting up, which is pretty good to see. And I really wouldn't be surprised if this thing heads back into maybe even the mid 440s, which again, will just continue lining up with what I mentioned as what I expect on the kind of 1 hour time frame, where we get that small little bounce, and this is going to be that touch point of the upper part of that sort of bullish flag, bullish wedge pattern. Most likely a rejection somewhere around here, around the mid 440s, and then we come back down one more leg lower, and then we head higher from there. Again, that's my current projection. Let's see what happens. This is, again, if I were to have a crystal ball and look into it, this is what I see. But, with trading, the more important thing is to react based on how price is telling you. If things change for better or for worse, you react accordingly. But again, if I were to architect the next few days of price action, maybe up to a week or so, something like this is what I would expect. So let me know what you guys think down below, but that's for pretty much what I see moving forward. So EMAs are bullish, things are bullish. So again, I still have an overall bullish outlook. I would start turning bearish if we start losing essentially this rising trend line or rising channel. If we start losing this rising channel, which at this point would be pretty much below about $410 per share, that's where I would start getting bearish. That's where I would start getting pretty concerned overall, and things would start looking, let's just say, not as good. I think that's about it. Not much more to say than that. Let's take a quick look at the broader market. How's the market overall looking? Market's actually not looking bad, right? It's, came down right back to that 9 exponential moving average, and actually, got pretty close to it and bounced off of it pretty nicely. It is trying its best to turn this sort of area down here at around that 683 to 680-ish region that was clearly a resistance here back into support. Now with these two candles right here, you can see the wicks at the bottom, right? But overall, the market still, in my opinion, looks bullish. Nice little cool off on that 4-hour SMI as well in the market, which is healthy to see. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There is, of course, potential volatility with Wednesday's FOMC plus rate cut decision. So, there is that risk of volatility. Who knows how that's going to go? So take that into consideration, of course. But SPY and Qs both look pretty decent, as they're pretty much just slowly retesting their exponential moving averages, but holding above them more importantly. One of the easiest kind of rule of thumbs you can kind of think about on the market is, as long as the market, number one, the 921 EMAs are crossed bullish, which you can see, they are now, but they weren't here, but they are now. Market's probably bullish, especially if price is actually above them, because sometimes you have price go down below them, but as long as the actual crossover still remains, you expect the market to continue being bullish, and I continue overall having a net bullish outlook on the broader market until price is, number one, below the EMAs, but more importantly, the EMAs start getting that bearish crossover. Then I start entering a little bit more of a bearish bias on the market until we get back into bullish mode like we did here, and then of course my bias flip back to being bullish. And again, we're still above the EMAs. The EMAs are still fully bullish. I have no reason to suspect the market is going to be bearish. Now, if you're lucky enough and you're bearish up here and you happen to time the top of the market and it crashes, congratulations, you won the lottery. But go back and see how many times that worked out for you in the past. probably not many times. So it's, you know, it's good to go with the trend. And the trend right now for the broader market is it's bullish. Plain and simple, it's bullish. The VIX is still kind of, you know, getting that nice little pump, which I actually told my members about on Friday. I don't know if I'll find that post, but I remember talking about this to my members on Friday, or Thursday. It was Friday or Thursday. It was one of them. I don't remember. Anyway, I'm sure you trust me, that the market, you know, VIX is coming down to some levels you can see with this trend line right here where it has bounced from before. So we are getting that small bounce. The VIX is getting that small bounce here for sure. But the VIX overall still seems pretty weak. We could get a little bit higher on the VIX, maybe back to 17.5, maybe even 18. But the VIX overall is still, in my opinion, on the weaker end of things. And I don't expect it to get any sustained move to the upside too much more than about 17.5 to 18. Maybe, you know, some jitters into FOMC/rate cuts. But I don't expect too much more than that. And the market looks pretty bullish overall. You know, as of right now. Obviously, if things change, you adapt, right? You never really know this market, especially when, you know, Donald Trump can pretty much rocket the market or crash the market with one tweet. But yeah, that's pretty much my perspective, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Oh yeah, option slow. Sorry, let's do option slow very quickly before I forget. Tesla, very nice option slow today, much more bullish than bearish, right? A little bit of a slow morning to start for sure, but the second half of the day, you know, in the afternoon, nice bullishness, right? We had a 1.3 million 545 call over here for January 16th, which is nice to see. Just 1 million 550 call, also January 16th, nice to see. And you can see a nice stream of bullish flow as well that came in pretty much throughout that sort of last couple hours of the day. Most of which being weekly calls, actually. You can see for 12-12 here, right? A lot of them are 12-12s, a couple of 12-19s, but most of them are 12-12s. You know, 442 strike, 437.5 strike, 440 strike, 470 strike, 450 strike. You know, a nice spread of calls for this Friday. So, yeah, you know, despite me thinking we can still see 430, I do have to say that I overall have a bullish perspective and bullish bias on Tesla stock as we just slowly fill out this bull flag and overall head higher. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. Peace.